Welcome back. So this will be a follow-up. Previously, we saw how we can create this image target application. If I'm gonna run the application, we're gonna see over here that based on the webcam feed, we're gonna see the following tracking over here. So we have this car, but now let's see how we can define an AR app that will track a 3D model. And for that, I'm gonna use two models of two cups. So if I will start again the webcam, we're gonna see those two cups over here. So these will be the cups that we are gonna track. So initially we need to generate those 3D models. Now we can use generative AI for that. For example, over here, if I will go within Hidden 3D, the model is still being generated. We see over here that I have this one over here set for Rodin. In this case, I have two views. I'm just gonna use the one over here, the initial one that will integrate the cup shape like this. And we're also gonna see how we can model that, because if you're gonna model it, the results will be a little bit better. So over here within Solid, I will go within New. I will create a new part. And let's just go ahead and start with the first cup. So I'm gonna go over here within the right plane. I'm gonna add a new sketch. I'm gonna sketch a picture. In this case, that will be over here. So let's start with this initial cup. I also have the cup over here, and let's say that it will be roughly 150 in height. So I'm gonna use that scaling tool in order to properly set this. Keep in mind that Solid 2024 has this weird bug, so you will need to move the mouse over here and it will be actually like that. So it's a little bit trickier to select that point, but now I can also select the arrow and I can scale this. And let's say that this cup will have 150 millimeters. I can leave that sketch. I will now create a new one over here within the right plane because I want my initial one to be a reference sketch image that I can show and hide. Now, depending on how that image was taken, we're gonna see that this will not actually be that perfect, but let's see how that tracking will work in this case, because it should. Over here we have those splines that will define the profile. I can go ahead and I can tweak those in order to better match that shape. We're gonna see over here, if you want that end point, we can select the following arrow. We can select, so again, that arrow. I will have that selected, hold down Control, select the line, and we should be able to add that perpendicularity between those. I have over here this rotation. If I will select that, you're gonna see that it will not actually appear. So I'm just gonna go ahead and change this a little bit. So I will delete that coincidence. I will only leave the spline somewhere up to there. So I want this over here on the bottom to go flat and only afterwards connect with this. So this can also deal with that. I can also add that tangency. So we're gonna have that fluid transition between the shape. Let's say that this will be the outer profile. I can go ahead and I can surface revolve that as following. Now I can go ahead and I can add a thicken. Let's say that I want this to be 30 millimeters and I will go with the material on the interior. And now I will need to model that cup handle over here. So again, the image is not perfect, but I'm just gonna track it like this. It's a little bit weird to define a good image for this, since we see that the camera will be in perspective. So I'm just gonna roughly match the profile of this cup. Over here, I will go a little bit inwards within the material, and we're gonna see if that will stick on the interior. I'm gonna go ahead and have that a little bit changed. I can also merge these two together. And in this case, we're gonna see that it will clip on the interior, but it shouldn't be any problem. I will make this to be mid-plane, and let's say roughly this will be 50 millimeters. I can now hide that initial reference, which is this one, and we're going to have the following cup. We see that inner area, so I can go ahead and I can just move this inwards. I could also go within a section to see exactly where those will end. Okay, so overall, let's say that this will be the profile. I can go ahead and I can add additional fillets over here. Let's say with 2 millimeters, I'm going to select all of those edges. Where those will be merged to the main body, we can also add now an additional fillet. And I can also add additional fillet over here on the top, but this will be smaller since we don't have that much surface. Okay, let's say that this will be the cup, even though if I'm checking this cup in on the bottom, it should be more, so this line should be more extended. I will just move it like this, and now I will change the profile like this. I can always enable that again, and we're gonna see that the cup will now look like this. Okay, let's use this as our reference. So in order to do that, we need to transfer this towards Vuforia model target generator. So this will be the software. We see it over here, Vuforia engine model target generator. You can download this directly over here within downloads. You're gonna find the tools, and this will be, so for Windows, for Mac, you can download this. You will need to log in with the same account for Vuforia, and then you can go ahead and work with that. We see over here that generative AI didn't really help us with this mug, at least Rodin didn't. I'm going to leave this for Hit and 3D to see if this will output a better model. But in the meantime, let's say that we want to transfer this in order to load it to Vuforia. So since this is a CAD software, I can go to File, Save, and we're going to see over here, these are the file formats. Now, the file formats that Vuforia will accept over here will be a little bit different than what we can output over here directly. If I will go over here and I want to create a new model target, we see over here I can select the CAD model. I can use select over here, and I can have that selected. But we have over here some information regarding the supported objects and best practices, and I would recommend you to check this also. We see over here also for moving objects. Vuforia also has a case study, just like we saw with the astronaut for the model target with this 3D printed element, and we can see over here what's the difference between tracking a model that will be flexible or rigid. In this case, for the cup, we're gonna go for one that will be rigid. We see over here that matching with the CAD model, in this case with a 3D print replica of that. Texture will also help, and we're gonna take a look at that as well. So keep in mind that I had recommended to check these best practices. We see over here, as a general rule, the CAD model used as an input should have a maximum of 400,000 polygons or triangles and contain a maximum of 20 parts and 5 textures over here. Now, let's see how we can have this loaded over here, because I'm gonna need to select that model. So I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna initially save this within cup tracking. I'm gonna call this cup1. I'm gonna leave this as a solid file, so I'm gonna save it. So we see over here we have the CAD model. I can select this. I can go on desktop. I can select that cup tracking, and these are actually the file formats. So solid will not be able to load directly, but we have over here step. We also have OBJ, FBX, GLTF. And the newer version of Solid from 2024 will be able to save those additional file extensions. So we see over here extended reality, GLTF, and we have extended reality binary, which will be this one. So I'm just gonna go with this one. I'm gonna call this cup1. I'm gonna hit save. And we can also use the step file. So that is the traditional method. We can use the step file. I'm just gonna call this cup1. I'm gonna hit save. This actually created a new folder over here. So let me just add cup1 over here and hit save. Now within model target over here, I'm gonna find the GLTF and the step file. We're gonna see the file size. So the GLTF will be only 3 kilobytes in this case, the step file a lot larger. So initially I'm gonna start with the GLTF over here. I'm gonna hit open. This will be cap1. We see that we have the check that this is valid. We can also have this interpreted as a state-based model, but in this case, I'm just going to hit generate. And this will be the output location. Keep in mind that with Vuforia, you will only have 20 targets for this. So compared to image target, which is not that limited, this model target will be a little bit limited. So I went ahead and I click over here on create, and we're going to see that this will open the model target generator workflow. So we see over here, initially I need to specify the model up vector. We're going to see that I will be upwards. In this case, this will be perfect because I use SolidWorks, and Solid will have that matching I-axis for the top. We're going to see over here the overall size of this cup. So this will be the correct height. So I modeled this within Solid to be roughly 0.15. We see it over here 0.14. So maybe I should have further adjusted that. I could easily go in within my sketch and I can add some constraints because I didn't actually constrain this. But we see it over here 141. So that's more than fine in this case. This is why it's important when you are working with CAD models to make sure that they will match. This will be vector y. I'm going to confirm this. We see over here that this will be in meters. This will be the distance for the tracking. So if I'm going to zoom in and zoom out, we're going to see how that model will look from 1 meter. So it will look like this. And this will be actually what the AR will track within the real environment. So I'm going to hit confirm. We're going to go to the coloring. In this case, if I had that cup, let me just open that again so we can see it over here better. We have the following cup. I'm just gonna open it now. This is the other model. So the one that we model was actually this one. And I could have this recreated and also use the textures, and then the information from that will also be used. For example, we see over here a flag. We see various characters, and they will also act within that tracking environment. But in this case, I'm going to go for non-realistic appearance. Select this option if your physical object looks different from the 3D model. So it actually does, because I don't want texture to be, let's say, taken into account for this. Keep in mind that you can, and it will work a lot better with texture. So I'm going to hit next. The complexity of the model, we see that the total number of triangles, so this is not that high poly. If I'm going to use a model created using generative AI, for example, we have over here this one that was just generated by Hit3D, we're going to see that it will look like this. So we actually try to match some of the elements of that texture, but we see it's poorly being wrapped. This Copenhagen is, let's say, readable. Tivoli over here as well, but over here we see Denmark and Copenhagen over here, or Anderson, not that well defined. But we see this profile, even though this is quite, it has many faces. We see over here 2 million. Overall, the quality is quite poor. So this is why I would recommend to have the model created within a CAD solution or within Blender. It's a lot better than using generative AI in this case. But this could also be used for tracking. It should work since it matches the same overall profile over here. Now, let's go ahead and have that model finished. So I'm going to go over here, hit next. We're going to see over here the optimized tracking. This will be the default low feature object. In our case, the cup is not a low feature object, so it will track based on that handle. So I'm just going to go with the default. And over here, we can have this created as a guided view, and this will be the first case study, but we can also create an advanced view. And this will require the model to be trained within Vuforia Cloud. So that will mean that the model will be uploaded, and over there, it will be recorded a full 360 so that regardless of the view, you will have that matched. I'm just going to go over here with a simple create guided view. In this case, I want this to be used on landscape. Let's say that for phones and tablets. I'm going to use the webcam, but at the end we can also swap and move the application towards a tablet or a phone. So I'm going to go over here, let's say for portrait. Now I need to match over here what exactly will be visible. So we see over here that distance. And if I will create a guided view, when I'm gonna put my webcam on top of that cup, I will need to match that perspective. So since I have that on my table, I'm gonna put it something like this because I have a webcam that I can move around. And now if I'm gonna create a guided view, it will actually create that outline. So we see this will be the edge tracking that the application will search. I can go ahead and I can add an additional one over here by adding on add views, create guided view, and that will also be added. I can also give them some names, so I can leave the default, which will go incremental like this. And at the end, I have the possibility to generate that model target by clicking on this. We're going to see that this will deduct 1 credit from the total amount. So keep in mind that with a new account, you only have 20 in total. And I'm going to hit continue, and we're going to see that this will now be saved. We see over here that I have the location for that, which will be over here. So that will actually create the following data set. And I have it over here within cup1. And this will be the Unity package for that. So within Unity, if I'm going to go within the scenes over here from Vuforia core sample, we're going to see that we actually have a model target in this case. But if I'm going to double click on that, it will use the following model. So Vuforia also put a link where you can buy this car, so you can play along with tracking this toy. But we see over here that the script will work like this, model target behavior. So I'm just gonna go, for example, I can go within the one that we defined over here. So image target for Dacia AR tracking. I can save this under a different name. So I'm gonna call this object target cup. Let me just add some of those. And over here, we see that I can right click and I can create a Vuforia engine, and I want a model target in this case. And it will be added over here. I'm just going to move that over here. So we have the model target. And in order to select that, we're going to see over here that these are the ones already added. So we have that for the toy. We can also have that database, and they will look like this. And we need to add our guided view over here. So we see over here the optimized guide view. So let's just bring in the one that was created, which is this one. This will be cup. So I should load this over here. I'm just going to go over here within 3D model, and I will import this package. So I'm going to right click, import new asset. I'm going to paste that. Let's see exactly why isn't this being imported. Because it should work like this. So we have over here the data set. We drag and drop, it worked. And we're going to see how this will actually bring in those two views. So the guidelines that we created with the image target, I'm going to hit import. And now they are loaded within the project. That means I can go on the model target and I can swap over here the database to the one entitled cup. And this will be the view. So if I will add over here the guided view 2D, we're going to have that over here added. Now we also need to add the model that we want to visualize over here. So in order to do that, I'm just going to run Blender because I want to convert that file so I can bring the cup digitally over here so we can go ahead and track that. So let's see, Blender will now start. We have Blender currently running. I'm gonna select everything, delete, and within file import, I want the GLB file. from my desktop, from KPR, this will be the file. So we see only 2 kilobytes in this case, and we also have over here a camera, and this will be the mesh. So I'm just gonna save this file, export. I'm gonna take this as an FBX. I'm gonna move this to Vuforia. So this will be cap1. Selected visible only. I don't need to pack the texture over here because I don't have any texture. And I can bring in the model now. Import new asset. I want this to be the following cap. So I do have the model over here. I can extract materials, but there will be no materials over here. So I can bring in the cap within the scene. I'm just gonna move this within 0, 0, 0. We see that the cap will have the following size. I can make it smaller, let's say 20 for the scale, and I need to make this cap target a child of the model target. So I'm gonna drag and drop that underneath this one. And now let me just take a look over here to see if this is connected. So we have that added, and we can go ahead and we can give this a try. So I'm just gonna run the application, and let's see. We're gonna also have the image tracking over here added. So we see over here we have that overlay that asks us to match that perspective. So if I'm going to move the camera roughly on top of that cup, so let's see, we have that matching over here, but we don't have the matching of this object in regards to the true scale of that camera. So let me just go ahead and over here, when I loaded that cup, I scaled it to 20. I'm just going to leave it to 100%, and let's see, because 100% will actually take the information from Vuforia engine, where we said that that will be roughly the following size, and we have the tracking enabled, as you can see. And if I'm going to move this around, it will slightly require that to be changed, but we can see that I can pick the cup up and it will track. And we can also disable this device observer, and that will make this a lot smoother. And at the same time, this will also work with this one. We still have the overlay from the cup, so we can have that disable and enable depending on what we are tracking, either an image target or a model target over here. Now, let's see, because I have 2 of the following cups. Let me just show you. We're gonna model 1. And in this case, it will work on both of them since they will match the same shape. It's just a different texture. These are Christmas cups. And in this case, we see that I'm trying to match the one that we model with this one. Let's see if we're gonna get that, because the threshold for this is pretty okay. And we have a match with this one. So the default threshold is roughly around 60%, and even though the profile over here of the cup doesn't really match, it will actually overlap on top of that. And now if I'm gonna move those cups, and if I will focus on this one, we're gonna see that it will now go to the correct one. If I'm gonna check this one, it will still consider that this is maybe the profile. So that threshold for the model target is set at around 60%. So we can have that also adjusted, but depending on the utility that you want, you can have that change or modify. Now, let's go ahead and I will just create the other cup. So I'm going to go over here. I will create a new part. And for the following cup, again, I will go from the side. I'm going to go with sketch picture. This will be the other cup. So the naming is cup 1 for this one, but it's actually the other. This will be the second cup that we are going to model. We see over here that I need to select that point, and again, within this version of Solid, it's a little bit bugged, and I don't really need to put the mouse on top of that point, somewhere to the sides in order to get that. Not sure exactly why the salt doesn't manage to fix that yet. So we have roughly the same size, 150 millimeters. I'm gonna hit OK, and this will be the reference. I'm gonna type in reference. And I'm gonna go within right, I'm gonna go within sketch, and I will create that new profile. Let's say that this will be the vertical axis. And again, I want this cup to be quite flat. So that's, keep in mind that that's a perspective view. So I'm just gonna roughly match it like this. I'm gonna add the tangency between those. I want this to be horizontal. And now I can further adjust that profile. So something like this will be more than decent. I'm gonna go within revolve, and I have that revolved. I'm gonna add the thicken. In this case, let's say again 3 millimeters. I want this to be on the interior, so like this. And I also have to define that cup profile. I'm gonna go ahead and I will make the profile again with 2 splines. We see over here that when I took this photo, this is a little bit more normal too. So it will be a little bit better. I will go ahead and I will create the following profile over here. Now with the line, I will create that, and with the power tool for trimming, I'm gonna cut those. And I also need to connect over here this profile. I can connect it directly with a line. And I can go ahead and I can have this extruded. I want this to be mid plane, 50 millimeters. I can hide that reference, and this will be the cup. Again, I can add those fillets to make this smoother, because it will not create that much additional geometry as we saw. I can hit OK, and I can create that additional fillet over here with 0.5 on those two edges. So I can go ahead and I can save this. I'm going to use again the step file, and this will be cup 2. I'm going to hit save, and within model target, I'm going to go ahead and I will create a new one. So we already have that over here. I will create an additional one, which will be cup. I can select the model. I don't have it in paste. Let me just select it over here. Cup 1, cup 2. Let me just see exactly where I saved this. So save as. I actually wanted to have it over here. So this will be cup 2 as a step file, and I should be able to load it from that folder, which is this one, cup 2. I can hit create, and this will create a new guided view for this one. We're gonna follow the same workflow, and at the end I will also have one loaded to Vuforia cloud, but that will take a little bit of time to process, and I will make an additional video regarding that section. So we have now the model being uploaded. It should follow the same workflow, just as the one that we previously saw. So let's see exactly. It's still loading. A little bit weird that it has this long loading time. So I'm just gonna do the same settings. Meters, no realistic appearance. We see that this will have few triangles, so only 9,000 compared to 12,000. I want the default one, and we have this one, but I'm gonna go again with create guided views in this case. Again, I want, let's say, portrait. And let's say that initially I'm gonna check the cup with a perspective somewhere like this, create guided view. I can create additional ones, but I'm just gonna generate it like this. So I can also give it a name. So I'm gonna call this Christmas cup, and have that generated. I can hit continue, and we have the following package, which should be over here within the same folder. So let me just search for that data set. This is the first data set for the first cup. And this will be for the second one, and this will be the package. So with that loaded, I'm going to import it. Again, it doesn't want to do that, so I'm just going to drag and drop it. Not sure exactly why it doesn't want to import it like that, because it's the same process. But yeah, let's do it like this. And this will be one model target. I'm going to copy and paste this. It doesn't really matter where you're going to put this within Vuforia, within the Unity scene, because it will track regardless of the location of this. And this will be for cup 2. I'm just going to rename that. This will be for cup 1. And for cup 2, I want this to go onto the second database. And we have this guided view. And now I just need to load that model in. So just like we did previously, I'm going to import it over here. I'm just going to delete that one. File import. I will need to save it from Solid because I don't have the proper file format. So this will be GLB or GLTF. I'm going to go with the first one. This will be cup2. I'm going to save that. And within Blender, we can now load it. This will be cup1. I want, again, cup2. This is the model. We also have an additional camera from Solid. I'm just going to delete that. And this will go as exported as cup2. And I can have that prepared for Unity. And I can now import it. I'm going to go in the same folder, and we're going to have cup2. So we have the model loaded. We see that different profile over here. I'm not going to scale this because we saw previously that I shouldn't do that. So I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to put this under cup2. And yeah, we have the model over here. We have the position for this. So let's just add minus 0.25. And for the cup as well, minus 0.25. Yeah, so now it will match. And we can now go ahead and we can play this. I'm also going to add a different texture so we can better see what cup is being tracked, because we have this guided view now, which is the one that we now modeled. And if I'm going to put this on top of that, let's say it will roughly match that position. But we see over here that the offset that we set, that 0.25, will also be over here. So when you are working with model target, you will need to leave those within the origin in this case. So let's just leave it like this. I'm just going to add an additional material for this. I'm going to create a new material. This will be for cup 2. I'm going to drag and drop this on top of cup 2, which will be the smaller one over here. And let's say that I want this cup to be red. So I'm going to start the tracking again, and we going to see the following. So we have that reference, and we have that model. Now, regarding the orientation, we see that it will actually position the model like this. So it's actually rotated. So I'm going to go ahead and I will flip this, because we see the orientation is set like this, but I'm just going to go ahead and I will rotate this roughly minus 90 on this axis. So let's take a look at the tracking now, because there's a starting position for the tracking depending on the handle, and again, it will still be tracked a little bit different. If I'm going to go for the first one and I will disable this, we see that the one active over here will still be the same over here for this cup. And if I will enable that, disable it, I see that the orientation is still a little bit off over here. So let's see exactly. If I'm going to go ahead and I will further rotate this, minus 180. Let's see if this will fix that. If not, maybe we need to rotate the whole asset in this case, but we're going to go ahead and check that. So this will actually now rotate it, but it will be quite the opposite. So we see that this is being mirrored. So let's just go ahead and have this rotated over here, minus 360. I'm gonna slightly center this, so I can go with 0 and 0 and 0 there, and that will be straight in the center. And now if I'm gonna use the tracking, it should overlay this properly, and it does. And we see over here that this will now track for that one, and we can also make it at the same time paired with this one, as we saw previously, as we did within the last video. Now, regarding the model target, if you are using additional model targets, and if you want now that secondary image to appear over here, you will need to go ahead within the script and create a script that will manage what model target should now be tracked, because currently we see that it's only taking the last one into account. Also, keep in mind that this feature, we see over here, premium trial feature app, you can use image target for free, but we're going to see that this model target will require an additional license if you want to publish that finished application. And this is why Vuforia is such a strong software, because it can use this image target in order to create complex tracking. And this is not limited only to AR. We can take that into mixed reality for Quest and so on. And that's where the real power will shine for Vuforia. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this content. I'm gonna position a similar video over here on the left side, and I will also add a subscribe button to the right. So that's it. Thanks for watching.